Hey guys, this is Matt here, and today I want to do a comparison video over the American Lawman and the first generation Spyderco paramilitary. I do not have the paramilitary 2, and even if I did want one, I couldn't get it because the demand is so high on the paramilitary 2, but this will just have to work as far as the comparison goes. But anyways, I wanted to just compare and contrast some things and tell you what I like about both knives and which knife I think is better. First off, start off with the paramilitary. I like the looks of the blade. It's very comfortable. Well, pretty comfortable, not compared to the new paramilitary. There is an upgrade in the ergonomics. The S30V still is nice, although with the Alsate, with the American Lawman, there's some certain advantages to that, but as far as edge retention goes, there's no argument that S30V is going to have more edge retention. So if you like edge retention, this is definitely the knife for you as far as comparison. But anyways, I like the G10. There's different options you could get with this knife. You can get black, you can get a black blade, and something I do not like about this knife is the clip. Although it fits fine, it works fine, it's not reversible in any way. And how much this knife cost way back in the day, over $200, depending on where you got it, you know, between $150 to $200. I think that's kind of crummy that you don't have an option, but the new paramilitary 2 does have that option. So we have a flat grind here, and this is where the comparison is going to take place, is really the grinds of the knives. We have a hollow grind with the cold steel American Lawman, and a full flat grind with the paramilitary. And essentially, I just wanted to talk about the differences between that, although there are some other differences that I like, but let's get into it. So first thing you may notice is the tip strength. Alright, I was watching a very hard use video on both the American Lawman and the paramilitary 2, and they put this thing barely in a piece of wood and it snapped. Now obviously this tip isn't made for prying, and you really shouldn't pry with this tip either. But something to note is that both tips can pierce very well. This one might have a little bit more piercing power as far as like going through things easier, but like if I'm going to stab into something, let's see. Alright, so this is some water hose, just stab into it. Alright, that was pretty easy, obviously. Now let's try this. That was pretty easy too. So I mean, there's no detectable difference in between how much effort it took to penetrate with, but there is a detectable difference on how much you could pry with this knife. If I were to stick this in a board and pry with it, I could break it. But this hollow grind really gives you a great advantage. Let's see if you can, okay. It really gives you a great advantage when it comes to tip strength, because we start out with a thin edge, and then it goes up into a thick spine, and that spine continues pretty much to the tip. It tapers a bit, but what that gives you, not only does it give you a thin edge to cut with, but it also gives you some more prying ability and also overall blade strength. This thing is almost like an I-beam. A good hollow grind on a knife will make a blade like an I-beam in a way, kind of like a fuller on the K-bar. Supposedly it adds a little bit of strength, and let's see if I can detect any difference. Yeah, that's not bending. This one has a little bend to it. Now I can't tell if it's the pivot difference, but I think you can kind of get what I'm saying, is that this isn't going to bend as much because of the I-beam like qualities of the hollow grind. Now let's go on to cutting performance and edge life. The cool thing about a hollow grind is you can sharpen it, and the grind is not going to get thick until the spine. As compared to the flat grind, the more you sharpen it, the thicker and thicker it's going to get. And a limb just fell in our yard, and that was kind of cool. But anyways, first we'll cut with the military, or the paramilitary. And that's another thing too. A lot of people say that hollow grind can't cut all that well because of the thick spine, but most things I cut with, now your cutting you know, preference might vary, but most things I cut with, once you get past right about here when it starts to get thick, I'm already through the material. So like this hose, for example. Alright, that was relatively easy. There's a frog. Anyways, now with this hollow grind, it's going to bite in deep, and eventually it's going to get to that thick spine. But with this hose, that was much easier than the paramilitary. And now it's kind of hard to compare this to the paramilitary 2 that's really popular right now, but because I've never handled it before. But I imagine the tip performance and the edge geometry is going to be just about the same as this knife. Now the blade is a little bit longer, the compression lock has improved, the pivot's different, but really I must say I like the American Lawman better because of the more capabilities you have with the tip. The Alsate steel, this limestone's getting on my G10, it's okay though. This Alsate steel isn't going to hold an edge as long as, say, the S30V, but it's also much easier for me to sharpen, which I prefer. If I were to get a chip or dent in this blade, it would be really easy to fix compared to the paramilitary. But anyways, overall I prefer the American Lawman to this paramilitary. I have not messed with the paramilitary 2, but I saw somebody do some spine wax with the paramilitary 2 and it failed just right off the bat. And you've seen the hard use test to the triad lock, and spine wax really isn't going to hurt this knife that much. It's very ergonomic. The spine is relatively straight, so you don't have to deal with thumb ramps. Although that's very comfortable, and I can put my thumb up here, it's somewhat awkward as compared to the American Lawman, where I can get my thumb and move it across and work with the blade any way I want to, and I don't have to deal with that thumb ramp. Although I do like thumb ramps on knives, but overall, comparatively, I prefer this knife over this knife. And I would love to hear your comments about it. I know there's a lot of controversy about hollow grinds performing next to a flat grind, but with this particular hollow grind that goes way up, I think it just does really great, and it gives you so much more strength in the tip, and really there's not a whole lot of weakness going on. It pierces just as good as the paramilitary, but you get a lot more strength in your blade. So that was the same amount of effort that I could feel. Now obviously the numbers might say something different if I had some way to measure it, but anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video. And one more comparison, price wise, this is going to be a lot cheaper. You could pick one of these for about 60 bucks, and you could pick one up right now as compared to, say, the paramilitary 2. Although this is a paramilitary, that would cost you about 100 bucks, but you can't get it right now, and it seems like there's no chance of buying this online because the demand is so high. But if you're looking at this, I would say perhaps try one of these, and I think you'll be very happy. One more downside with the American Lawman is the black coating. I do not like the black coating. I think this would be one of the most popular knives on the market right now if it did not have the black coating on it, because it scratches up and it just doesn't look great. But now that I got the black coating off, I think it's excellent. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you found it interesting, and have a wonderful day. Thanks.